Hey everyone, I'm going to be giving a quick rundown on all 12 characters, and then all 12 character videos will be uploaded because there's QR codes in the rulebook. So if you're confused, you're going to be able to scan the QR codes in the rulebook and directly go to a video that kind of breaks down the character in more depth so you completely understand it before playing that character. These are the dice that were printed for the special, for the deluxe edition. They are edge printed this time, unlike Divine Wrath. So yeah, looks really good. Just here's Unmaze and here's Maladams. So yeah. So let's go over the characters. Let's go over Lemme first, and I have them all here. These are the dividers. Every character has a divider now. And there's dividers for the Mega Pack 2, and the Deluxe Edition has dividers for Ninan, or Saga Chapters 1 and 2 stuff. So you'll be able to get all the dividers. Okay, so let's talk about the characters. We have Lemme here. It's going to be quick breakdowns. I'm just going to explain how they play and what kind of changed between first edition. So Lemme here now has this always active. She didn't have an always active before, but now whenever you heal power, the first ability you activate on that power costs 1 less die that round. So if you heal Unmazed power that costs 3 dice, it will be 2 dice now. It's really great, combos really well, helps high die cost abilities get activated easier. So now the passive is each time a trap or enemy makes you or the party roll dice, you may re-roll them once. You must keep the second result. You can do this once per round for an enemy or once per trap. You gain 2 wild dice, and the flip is you gain 2 wild dice, and all other players gain 1 wild die this round, or gain 1 plant. Plants are really cool effects. You may remove 1 plant to prevent 1 damage during a trap or event. So you can keep using your flip to build up these, and yeah, so she's really good against traps now and events, and she has the ability to reroll traps, and so very cool and interactive, way different than the original, which kind of just made her feel like all she did was change dice, and she didn't really feel like a full character because you're spending 3 dice to adjust 2 dice of someone else. She wasn't better than just a raw damage dealer. But now you have a lot of abilities that heal, and remember, whenever you heal, you can reduce abilities by 1 die. And now, like, when you adjust dice, if you adjust 3 dice by 1, if all 3 dice are used active abilities, you deal 2 damage, so you get a little bit of extra. Like if Emilis is in the game, she instantly goes to 4 blood, replaces power, and remove it from the game. So you get a little bonus if certain characters are in the game. She has this, you may remove this power from the game to activate it for free. A little nice heal 4. You can ignore the next morale tier effect. You may not ignore a permanent effect unless you decrease morale by 3. So you could really ignore this awesome permanent effect, and that would be nice. And you can, yeah, so she has way more healing abilities, and all of her adjustment abilities, like if all 3 dice are used to activate this ability, you may activate that ability in additional time for free. If you do remove that power from the game, you're permanently going to lose that power. But think about what you could do with that. Like if Unmade activates ability that deals 15 damage, she's now dealing 30 damage. But she's going to lose a power slot permanently. But it has its, it has its powers. But completely spending 3 dice and losing a power slot is very risky. Yeah, so this is Lemme in a nutshell. She does have some high damage abilities as well, but they take time to build up. Deal 5 damage and add a counter's power. Deal 2 damage for each counter on this power. Add 10 counters, remove this power from the game. So a nice little build up. So that's Lemme. Completely reworked. Really nice flow to the character now. Feels more like a pure support. I think if you like to play 2-handed solo, she's going to be really fun in there. Because a lot of people like Lumi, the Cryomancer, the Ice Elf. So, yeah. Let's go over Zara now, one of the newer characters. Zara is a demon that has a slot machine staff that just causes a lot of randomness. So, each time you activate an ability, you're going to roll a die for the chaos effects. Abilities effects trigger after the chaos effects roll. So what that means basically is all of her ability. It's kind of a wordy one. They're all kind of wordy. But so I'm going to activate this ability, and then I'm going to roll, and then the whole ability gets activated with the chaos effects. So that's what the always active means. So when I roll this, target a player, power, ability, or enemy, add 1 counter of each type of counter to that player, power, ability, or enemy. There's basically, this was changed. I know this was the version right before the final. It just says per 381. Now per 38 is add a counter to a player, power, ability, or enemy, whatever you want. That already has a counter. So, and then down here, you're going to roll a chaos die. So each time you activate an ability, you always roll a chaos die. And then your passive is once per round after rolling for the chaos effects. For your first ability, you may reroll 1 chaos effects die. So just once per round for your first ability, you can do that. And for the next ability, the flip is for the next ability you activate, roll an additional die for the chaos effects. After rolling, give 1 die 6 and another die -1. So if you roll a 6 and a 1, it would be a 5 and a 2 because you can't edit those down. If you roll 2 6s, the max is still 6, so 1 would be a 5 and 1 would be a 6. If you roll 2 1s, 1 would be a 2 and 1 would be a 1. If you roll a 3 and a 4, you could make 1 a 5 and 1 a 2, or 1 a 3 and 1 a 4. So you have your options there. Progressively, they obviously get better as you go up on the chart. Sometimes some have nothing happens, but usually once you hit 3 or 4, they start becoming really good. So, and most of her abilities are 1, 2, or 3 dice. So she's going to be rolling a lot of randomness. I just want to show you if I can find it. Hold on, why am I doing like this? She has these death counter abilities now, which became decay counters. So you can add decay and instantly kill an enemy. If you want to pause and read that, you can. But if you roll 1, you duplicate the enemy at its current health, which would be really bad. What I wanted to show you was Surge. Surge is a new mechanic in Catharsis 2nd Edition, as well as these death counters, decay counters. Surge is basically, at the end of each player attack phase, you deal 1 damage for each surge on an enemy. And when that enemy dies, you get to move the surge to the next enemy. But the great thing about Surge is once you hit 5 counters, you immediately deal, I believe, 10 damage, and then you remove all counters. So you can just hang at 4 and keep dealing 4 damage every round and move them to next enemy. So, oh, the next ability you activate this combat, roll 2 additional dice for the chaos effects. That's really nice. Roll 3 additional dice for the chaos effects for this ability, or roll 2 additional dice for this combat. Yeah, this combat means, yeah, anytime this combat. So if you're fighting a boss in the 2nd round, you can go to the 3rd round. If, yeah, very next ability you activate. So you could like stack a bunch of chaos effects and roll a bunch of times. It's very dangerous. So that's Zara in a nutshell. Very random character, but really fun. I think a lot of people will like how this character plays. And if you really like rolling dice and you like complete randomness, and then this character is definitely for you. Let me organize this a little bit so we have more characters to talk about. Okay, let's go over Envy, one of the other new characters. Envy is from another planet, crash landed on the Catharsis world, has this mecha-like suit that he goes around in, and don't ask how he goes into caves or stuff like that. It just works. So Envy has a setup card, but let's go over the setup and the rule. So, Envy levels up his powers similar to the Tinkerer. Actually, they are married in the game. So, at the start of the game, you choose 6 V1 powers. This is a V1 power. And you can see down here is a V2, as you can upgrade them. So there's 10 powers with 2 levels of each, and you choose 6 of them. So you get to choose your powers. And you start the game on your human roll side. This is the human roll side. You gain upgrade through your human abilities. You may spend 10 upgrade to swap a V1 to a V2 power at any time. So you need to collect upgrade to be able to swap these. You have max 15 overheat and max 15 upgrade. You do have a magnetic tracker. That's the blood. It's somewhere. Yeah, it's included. It might be in my box. So, and we give a note for the ability activation order. You activate an ability, you deal yourself damage based on your overheat. We'll get to that in a second. Complete the ability's effect and gain 1 overheat for activating the ability. So, each time you activate an ability while in mecha, you gain an overheat. This is how you gain overheat. When you activate an ability at 4, 5, or 6 overheat, deal yourself 1 damage. 7, 8, or 9, deal yourself 2 damage. At 10 overheat, deal yourself 5 damage. This is like the hard cap. But overheat helps your abilities deal more damage or get dice reductions or get bonuses. And you'll see that in a second down here. Always active is human and mecha. You're immune to replacement effects. If you're forced to replace 2 or more powers at a time, deal yourself 2 damage. If an ability says like replace 3 powers, you don't replace anything, then you deal yourself 2 damage. If something says replace 1 power, you don't deal yourself damage. That's pretty nice. You may flip your roll anytime during the player attack phase. At the start of each encounter, you may choose which side your roll is on as well. So the human side is this roll could be targeted by heal effects. So Lemme or other characters who heal can target this roll card. Whenever you or another player or an effect heals your roll, you may remove 1 overheat for each point healed. So you have to be human to use this always active. So when it's on this side, you get that. Additionally, for each power you do not refresh when spending morale, you may instead remove 1 overheat. So if you have 4 exhausted powers, you don't heal any of those, you can remove 4 overheat. You only have access to your human effects on your abilities instead of the normal ability. You cannot activate any of your mecha abilities or gain overheat when you're on the human side. The same thing down here, so I won't explain that again. You can just flip between your rolls. So let's go over this. I'll go over the human thing, the human stuff real quick. So human, I can only use this on my human side. So if I activate this ability, the bottom ability, I don't do this effect. I only do the human effect, which is heal 4 or gain 3 upgrade. So gaining upgrade is really hard because you can only do it on your human side and you basically lose a whole round to gain upgrade. But the upgraded abilities are super powerful. This ability here, you can see on top, deal 1 damage for each overheat. These count as separate attacks. So say you have 8 overheat. When you activate this ability, you're going to deal yourself 2 damage, as we talked about before, because you... Oh, sorry, 8 overheat, yeah, deal yourself 2 damage. But you would deal 8 damage with separate attacks of, like, say, Anme's in the game, and she flips her roll card. You could do 16 damage. You could do crazy things if you have multiple attacks with bonus damage each attack. The bottom is deal 10 damage, armor shred 1 for each overheat. So if we look at the level 2 version, now it's deal 2 damage for each overheat. The die does go up 1, but the damage goes up massively. And then you deal 12 damage, armor shred 2 for each overheat instead of, and those dice stay the same instead of 1. Let's go over a couple of these powers. This one has the reload mechanic. Reload is you set aside a power and then comes back to your player board after you spend the dice. And when you activate it, you spend 2 dice, and then later at the start of round, you have to spend 4 to bring it back to your player board. You get to lower the reload. You can look at the next boss stat card for every 2 overheat you have. Here it's look at the next but the damage goes up substantially. 3 damage. 5, 1, 2, heal 1, all other types deal 4. So if you have 10 overheat, 9 overheat, you can do a lot of damage on 4 dice. Like at the start of each encounter with a non-boss enemy, you may remove this power from the game. If you do that, enemy is instantly defeated. Resolve on defeat effects for level 1 is you may remove this power from the game if you do that, enemy starts at half its starting health. That's really nice for non-boss enemies. You can instantly kill something. And the human side, at the start of an enemy encounter, heal 1. So if you do have this, it's a permanent heal 1 effect if you're on your human side at the start of an encounter. This one just does a lot of elemental damage, so you can deal Spore. And then, like as you see, the level 2 is you can reduce dice based on how much overheat, and you deal more. So overall, this character, really powerful. One power you might want on your player board is the Omega Overdrive, which as long as this power is on your player board, gain 1 overheat at the start of each round. Your first ability cost is reduced by 1 die. That's a passive. Deal yourself 1 damage. Your attacks deal +1 damage this round. That goes great with the sword effect we showed. If Luthia's in the game and this power is not exhausted, Luthia gains each time Luthia gains Cobble, she may instead remove an overheat from Envy. This allows her to remove overheat from Envy and even if he's in Mecha. So yeah. They pair really well together. That's intentional because they're married in the game. And this is a god tier character, and that's what they wanted. So we wanted to make this character very enjoyable. This one makes the enemy attack phase, player attack phase, always happen before the enemy attack phase, even if it were swapped somehow. You just swap it back. And this is really good against bosses because you add counters. This ability can only be activated when fighting bosses. you deal 15 damage plus 2 damage to each counter on this power. If you look at the bottom, add a counter's power. This power does not exhaust. If overheat is 4 or more, add +1 counters. This power ever becomes exhaust, you remove all counters. If you keep this on your player board the whole game, you build this up, you could deal 50 damage right when you hit the boss. And this is great. You just have an extra die to dump. Boom. But if it ever becomes exhausted, you lose all those counters. Works great with Perforated as well. So that's Envy in a nutshell. Yeah. So let's go over. Oh, Aiden's. These are not Aiden's final cards. They did change. I'm just going to put Aiden here. Aiden did change. Oh, sorry. Let me move this. Okay. Let's go over the next character. Let's go over Emilis here. Another. Oh, for Envy, I would say a 3 difficulty and a 3 or 4 for solo ability. I would say a 3 because being solo and having to heal yourself is a lot of downtime. But again, if you're really good at the game and you learn every boss deck, he's really good. So, Emilis is one of probably my favorite new character. Even has 2 role cards, but you have to unlock this. So let's go over her role card first. She uses a mechanic called Blood, and here's the blood tracker. So each time you activate an ability, you gain 1 blood. At 5 blood, you remove all blood, heal 3, and unflip your roll. Your top abilities do not exhaust when activated. When spending morale, you do not refresh X exhausted powers where X is equal to your blood. So if I have 3 exhausted powers and 3 blood, and I spend morale, I don't unexhaust any of those powers. Now, if I have 4 exhausted powers, I would unexhaust 1 of them. Yeah, you have an example here. You have 4 exhausted powers and 3 blood, and spending morale, you would only refresh 1 power. If you have 2 blood, you would refresh 2 powers. A passive is your attacks deal +1 damage for each blood that you have. So if you have 4 blood, your attacks are going to be dealing 4 damage. Your bottom abilities are reduced by 1 die for each blood you have, which is really nice. Each time you activate a bottom ability, that's how you gain blood. But there are other ways. So blood gained from bottom abilities is gained when the ability completes. Dealing damage to a player is increased by your blood. Just note that anytime you deal damage to a player, if you have additional damage from any source, it does deal extra damage to players. We'll go over this other role card soon. So, as you can see here, Emilis is pretty good solo if you know how to manage your blood. But you have these 8 dice abilities down here, and you cannot even activate this if you have this early on in the game. Like this one you could. If you activate this, you gain 1 blood. But there's other ways to get blood. So if there's other people in the game, you can deal another player 1 damage, gain 2 blood. Now remember, if you have 2 blood and you do this, you would go to 4 blood, but you would deal that player 2 damage, or 2 plus 2 damage. You would deal that player 3 damage, gain 2 blood, you'd be at 4. Target another player and remove all blood. Their next 4 attacks this round deal additional damage equal to the blood you removed. So, like, target Unmei with this, remove 4 blood. If Unmei has a multi-attack 4 ability, she would deal 16 damage with that and deal 5 damage. So if you have 4 blood and you activate this top, it just deals 9 damage, but you don't gain blood from that. Now let's go over, let's say optimally, you probably want to get to 3 blood and flip your roll. So if you have 3 blood and you flip your roll, this ability now only costs 5 dice. And then if you were to activate this ability, you would flip it over, exhaust it, do its effect. Now you would have 4 blood. This would only cost 1 die now, and you could pay any die. You can just pay this question mark die because you get to choose which die you want to spend. So, like Blood Ritual, to activate this ability, you must be at 4 blood. So you couldn't even do it. But if you have at least 4 powers on your player board, search your deck for 4 powers and use those to replace 4 powers on your player board. This must be one of the powers you replace. So really cool to get the powers that you want into play. Let's go over a couple more. So deal 4 damage, deal another player 1 damage, gain 2 blood. Deal another player 2 damage, gain 2 blood. So that's how you gain blood. You can remove all blood, heal any player equal to the amount, and they may unflip their roll. So there's powerful effects. Blood enchantment. Next round, your attacks deal 2 damage. You have this cool effect where you remove this power from your player board and set it under another power for the rest of the game. Attacks on that power deal +1 damage. Set this on Unmei on one of her multi-attack abilities. You're going to be doing a lot of insane amounts of damage. But you lose a power slot, so there's that. A lot of her powers, you put counters on it and you build up, and then you can deal stuff when you reach a certain amount of counters. There's replacement effects built into each. Blood Explosion is one of my favorite. Deal 2 damage to all enemies, deal 1 damage to all players. Remember, if you have 3 blood, this would deal 5 damage to all enemies and 4 damage to all players. This attack deals at least 10 damage to enemies and players, gain 1 blood. The bottom is just deal a lot of damage and cost a lot of dice. Blood Sister, target another player. They may remove a power, and you remove this power from the game. For the rest of the game, each time you both activate an ability in a round, and a Millis. So if you both activate an ability, and they're both bottom ability, and a Millis is a bottom ability, and Millis makes an attack dealing 1 damage. This attack is increased by your blood if your passive is available, just to clear that up. If Lemme's in the game, you get a bonus effect. And like this, you have to target another player. So there's a replacement effect built into these powers in case you don't want to ever use the bottom because you're playing solo or something. And I had that divine roll, right? So this is the divine roll, and how you access her divine roll is it's an ability called Ritual of Sacrifice. So you add a counter to this card, deal 1 damage to another player. If you start the game with this power, if playing solo, you may replace it. You may only choose this effect if this power has 10 counters on it. Target another player, that player dies, switch your roll to a Millis Divine Vampiress. Deal 20 damage, replace this power. So you could just deal 20 damage on 8 dice and replace this power. And let me go over why this is so strong. So your max blood now becomes 7. Whenever you hit 7, whenever you hit 5, you immediately go back to 0. So that's why there's no 7 or 5. So whenever you activate a bottom ability, gain a blood, same thing. Max blood becomes 7. Remove all blood, heal 6, and unflip your roll. Your top abilities do not exhaust when activated, same thing. This roll can only be gained by meeting the conditions for Ritual Sacrifice. So why is that so great? Now let's say I have 4 blood, and I decide to flip my roll. This is free, completely free. I don't even use any dice. And then say I go to 5 blood. A lot of 4 dice abilities here. Let's say actually you have 3 blood. You can start there. And then you go to 4 blood, you can activate this for free. You go to 5 blood, you can activate this for free. You go to 6 blood, you can flip and completely activate this for free, and you still have your 6 dice left. Or if you had 6 blood, you can pay 2 dice to activate this. So now starting to flip at 3 blood, you get all these dice reductions. You get to heal 6 at the end of it all, unflip your roll, and you get ready to do it again. You do have to kill another player. So if you're in a 2-player game, you're still playing at 2-player rules, even though that character dies. So you have to fight and deal damage as if, yeah. So it has to be really powerful. But this is a really cool effect, and it's awesome if you're playing 2-handed solo. I don't think you really want to kill your friends. But yeah, if you're playing 2-handed solo, start with Ritual Sacrifice, have a little bit of fun with it, and enjoy the game. So that's Millis. And that's her artwork difference. So she has 2 artworks. Pretty cool. All right, that's part 1 of this video. We're going to be going over part 2, and I'll put the link in the description. I just don't want these to be too long, so please check the link in the description, and we'll go over part 2. Thanks.